Why did you want to be an astronaut?
Is there any other job that beats being an astronaut? Who wouldn't want to be an astronaut? That is my question. But basically, I grew up with the dream of being an astronaut. Since I was a very little kid, one of the earliest memories that I can think of is of me about 3 or 4 years old, no older than that. A very first time in a swimming pool with the instructor trying to get to know us. You know, a pool filled with kids about that age, 3 or 4 years old. And what's the first question you ask? What do you want to be when you grow up? And I remember very clearly, you know, kids saying, I want to be a doctor, I want to be, I don't know, a teacher, I want to be a gas station attendant, whatever. But I remember very clearly that my answer was, I want to be an astronaut. Now, why I answered that? I think that what happened is that I grew up at the beginning of the 80s. I was born in 1976. So when I was about that age is the time that the very first shuttle flights were happening. And being a first and being the 80s, those were highly televised, even in Europe and even in Italy. So I remember seeing the first astronauts floating around the space shuttle doing their job. And I think that even in a kid, as small as I was, I just thought that must be the greatest job in the world to be able to do those things and call it a living. So since then, I had this dream of becoming an astronaut. Now, it was a dream, meaning I had projects growing up of doing things, but that was always my dream, a little bit hidden in the drawer, but always there for me to open the drawer and look at it and say, oh, it's still there. So then I grew up and I kind of took the road of becoming a pilot, which was another dream I had of flying. And once I did attend the Air Force Academy, that dream of flying became more like a project, and I wanted to be a fighter pilot, which I did. I became a fighter pilot. Then I was lucky enough to be selected by the Italian Air Force to become a test pilot. And somehow, now the road that took me from being a kid into the Air Force and then a pilot started getting closer to another road, which was the dream of becoming an astronaut. Somehow those two roads at one point collided or merged, and as a test pilot I was able to apply for a job with the European Space Agency as an astronaut, and I was lucky and privileged enough to be selected.
You touched on your childhood. Let me ask you to fill that out a little bit. Tell us about your hometown and where you grew up, what it was like there, and what you did as a kid.
So my memories of my childhood are wonderful memories. Again, I feel that I was privileged because I grew up in a beautiful city. It's called Catania on the eastern coast of Sicily. It's a place filled with sun, close to the beach. Every day going to school, I would see the Italian Sea in front of my eyes, and I remember sunny days in the mild Italian weather, especially in the south. My family is a family of teachers. Both my parents were teachers. They are now retired. And for me, in that sense, I think education was, the idea of education was always a part of my normal life. So for me, going to school was important, and getting a very good education. I grew up in a very loving family, typical Italian family, with the expanded family joining together every Sunday for our you know, and every time there was any kind of celebration, we would always be together. So with my brother and my cousins, we grew up together, sort of like brother and sisters, really. So a very happy childhood in the town of Catania. And then growing up, I had the chance, again, I was privileged again. My parents were very open-minded, and when I was 16 in high school, I won a scholarship. I was lucky enough to win this scholarship to become an exchange student with the society called American Field Service, which in Italian is called Intercultura. And so by myself at 16, I traveled to the States in California, and I attended 1 year of high school in Southern California, in Orange County, in a town called Mission Viejo. And I think that was a pivotal moment in my life, because I think my life really changed at that point. My host family is a wonderful family. I'm still in contact with them. As a matter of fact, my host father is coming to my launch, and he is a former Marine navigator. He flew F-18s, and that really revived my desire to fly. And so coming back from that experience, that is when I knew I was going to go to the Air Force Academy. I was going to try to go to the Italian Air Force Academy. And at the same time, I met the person that later became my wife. So it was a life-changing experience, certainly.
You met her in California?
I did.
So you could then go back to Italy to finish high school and pick up the story there.
So I went back to Italy, finished high school. In Italy, we have 13 years of school in total. So I had the 5th year of high school to complete when I came back. And then in that year, I applied for the Air Force Academy and went to the Air Force Academy, which is a 4-year college, basically. At the time, Kathy, my wife, was my girlfriend, and we had a long-distance relationship. I like to say that we are probably the last generation of people that would write letters that were not in electronic form. So we still have our packages of letters that we send to each other. And after the university, so after the Air Force Academy, I was, one more time, lucky enough to be sent to a very prestigious flight school. It's called the Euronet, or Joint Jet Pilot School, in Texas, near Wichita Falls. And that's when Kathy, by then we were about 20 or 21, she moved in with me, and that's when we knew that we would get married. And so I finished pilot training, moved back to Italy, became a fighter pilot, and got married with my long-time girlfriend, and we've been together ever since. I was assigned to a fighter squadron in Italy, and after a few years, I was selected to become a test pilot, and we moved to Rome, and then to France, and then to Germany.
And is that the point that you became an astronaut?
Was when I moved to Germany.
To Germany.
Yes.
You're about to become one of only a little more than 200 different human beings who've actually been on the International Space Station. Sort of a unique experience amongst all of the people of Earth. Have you given any thought to your hopes about how you can use your mission to try to inspire the space travelers of the future?
I've given a lot of thought to it, because I think it is maybe one of the most important parts of my job is to share the experience. So one thing that I want to do is to make people realize that astronauts in general are very normal people. They're down to earth, so to speak. And I know it sounds contradictory, but we are very normal people. We are very normal people with the fantastic privilege and opportunity to do something that is extraordinary. So my message is to the young people of today to never feel that is something that they cannot reach. Never feel that it cannot be done, or it is too hard, because it can be done. And it doesn't have to. You don't have to become an astronaut to fulfill yourself, to fulfill your dreams. But the space community has something that makes us unique. Whether you're a scientist, whether you're an astronaut, a pilot, or in the administration, or a doctor, we are all working we really work towards the future. We are really paving the road for future, for the good of all humankind. So it's incredibly exciting, and I want to invite the future generations to find motivation into science, into technology, engineering, to be curious, to want to experience this fantastic opportunity that spaceflight offers us, not just to astronauts, but for everybody. And I hope that I will be able, through my experience and sharing those experiences, to really inspire them to follow their dreams.
In doing the job of an astronaut, in flying in space, you're taking on some relatively unique risks. And since you're doing it, I'm going to assume that you think those risks are worthwhile. But I want to know why you think that. What is it that we're getting as a result of flying people in space that makes it worth doing?
Well, it's again, I think it's our nature of humans to look for hard questions and then trying to find the answers. And those answers, to find those answers, we need to sometimes to go far away. 500 years ago, I think I would have been on the crew of Christopher Columbus. I wouldn't have known where I was going, but I would have wanted to be part of the crew because I would have thought that it's important to expand our knowledge and to look for the unknown so that it becomes known. Now today, the frontier is that of space. There are very, very few frontiers left. I think that the abysses of our oceans are one of the other frontiers that we need to explore, and then the universe is the other frontier. The risks, yes, of course, there are risks. I think that our engineers and our technicians do an incredible job of minimizing those risks. I like to think that the chances of those risks becoming real are very small. Of course, the consequences are enormous in most cases. Is it worth it? Yes, it's worth it because that's who we are. That's what makes us humans. That is what makes us different from the rest of the animal kingdom. And if we don't follow our nature of being explorators, of being thinkers, then we are denying a part of ourselves that is incredibly important.
You and your crewmates are next in line to launch to the International Space Station. Luca, tell me in summary, what is the goal of your mission to the space station, and what are your jobs going to be there?
So the way I see it is that on the space station, as it is right now, we do three things. We test new technology, so technology. We create and research science, and we do a little bit of exploration. And in my case, in my expedition, I'm lucky enough to actually be involved in all three of these things. For the technology part, well, it starts on the very day of the launch. We are testing a new way to get to the space station. We will be doing for-orbit rendezvous, so a quick rendezvous, it's so-called. Instead of waiting in orbit for 2 days before docking to the station after launch, right after launch, we will get the spacecraft ready to just get in a higher orbit and then dock on the station only 6 hours after launch. It would be only the second time that this has been done, but it's the first time that an international crew does it. The previous time has been done only by 2 Russians at the command and as a co-pilot. I will be the co-pilot in this case, and so that's very interesting. That it will be slightly different from the previous case because it will be a completely independent spacecraft doing it without support from the ground. But also, of course, on the station, we test new technology every day. We have experiments that run on new technology, and we develop new technology so that we can go to the station and then in the future do more. The second part, science, it's very exciting because the space station is this incredibly advanced laboratory, orbital laboratory. And the science that we do on the station cannot be replicated anywhere else. It can only be done on the station. And at any moment on the station, we have between 130 and 150 experiments running. And now the crew interacts with about 2/3 of it. So we will be dealing with installing, repairing, or following about 100 experiments. And on these, probably a good 20% or more are physiology experiments where we are the science. We are the objects of the science, and we perform the experiments on ourselves. And if this wasn't exciting enough, I think that the part where we talk about exploration